Have you ever felt guilty for enjoying the spotlight? Many of us raised in religious spaces were taught that it should be all for God's glory and never for ourselves. That programming doesn't vanish once we deconstruct. So, how do we reclaim play and the joy of being seen? That's what we're talking about with singer, songwriter, and bilingual voice and performance coach, Melissa V. Cartwright. Melissa is the founder of MVC Performance and the host of Passionate Performer podcast. In fact, Emily was a guest on her show, and we'll link her episode in the show notes. With over 25 years of experience in TV, radio, studio work, and musical theater, she helps artists step on stage with confidence, whether it's their very first open mic or a headlining show. Like us, Melissa grew up in evangelical Christianity, so naturally, we had to talk all about it: deconstruction, performance, and where we go from here. We're two childhood best friends talking about creative mindset.
I'm Emily Hatch.
And I'm Carrie Schaefer, and this is Honestly, Dear Listener.
Honestly, dear listener.
Woo! Melissa, we're so happy to have you here today.
So good to be with you. So good to be with you.
We've already got the giggles. It's been a little bit of a technical fun time over here. So good to have you here.
I don't think people realize, though, like how much goes into putting together a podcast and how many things need to go right in order for it to work. And so, yeah, it's kind of a feat that we're ever able to make this work.
Yeah, Melissa has a podcast also called Passionate Performer. And so she knows how this works.
I totally get it. That's why. And I was just telling you ladies, it's just been a week anyway. So I'm just kind of like, what else are we going to do? What else are we going to do? We're just going to float.
That's right.
Melissa, I believe, is the first guest that I've invited that I haven't met in real life.
Isn't technology amazing? Like, I just think about when we were kids and we were growing up in school, and it's like knowing that one day you'd be sitting in front of a computer screen talking to someone and having a conversation that you've never met, and then we're just going to post it online for everyone to see. Like, that blows my brain.
Yeah. And the way that connectivity happens in this format, right? Like, we can have, like, when Emily was the one that reached out and was like, hey, can we meet, online? I was just like, absolutely. Cause, just from social media, we found that we had a lot in common. And then we actually hopped on a Zoom and talked in this format. And it felt like I was in New York with you, or you were in Virginia with me. Right. And so, yeah. It's just so part of our schema now, like the normalcy now. And but then you talk about our childhood. I'm like, well, yeah, I remember that too.
Yep. Yeah. I know. Just different lifetimes.
Yeah. We met on Instagram, and it's because I believe Amber talked to you about, right? How did that happen so Amber's a guest of ours that has been on the podcast twice, actually.
Yeah. Amber Mog Kathy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I also met Amber over the interwebs and connected over the COVID times, as so many of us found each other. And then, when she moved out to Colorado, she was telling me about you, because I also work with gigging performers. And she was like, well, have you heard of the gigging singer? I was like, no. Then I started following you, and I love everything you do. And then I, started following the podcast with you and Carrie, and kind of how our worlds collided in that way. And then I'm so glad that you personally reached out to me too, to connect. And then when we did, found out we had so much in common, especially with our upbringing. And I know both of you have talked freely about that here. And I got to say thank you for just creating a space to be able to do that so freely. Like, I'll hit play on this podcast and not, it doesn't feel like, like trauma bonding or anything like that. It's just very honest. Again, honestly, dear listener. And oh yeah. There are other people out here, because I think one of the biggest lies, any of us, especially artists, because we're so in the zone of creating our art, is that we feel like nobody gets it or gets us. And you both have debunked that in such lovely and honest ways, with between the two of you and the people that you have on here. So it really is. So again, I'm just so grateful that you were like, yeah, let's hit record on our extended conversation, and I
Oh,
get to do it now with Carrie. So
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Melissa. How kind.
Yeah, that means a lot. When Melissa and I were talking, we were, you know, had mentioned that she also grew up in the fundamentalist Christian uh realm, and then also being so we have so much in common, being a voice teacher, also being a singer and live performer herself. Like so
Wow.
yourself, I'm talking about you like you're not here, you're right here. And so we were also chatting about, Carrie and I had been talking about this, and you and I were talking about just how we kind of feel like our upbringing influenced us as performers. And yeah, let's dive in more to that. Tell me
Whew.
more about your life.
yeah.
Just give me it all.
Give it to me. Yes. As you mentioned, so yeah, I'm the founder and voice coach of MVC Performance. So just like both of you, I get to work with creatives and artists, both online and in person in this space. And we're really just helping singers, attach themselves to their passion and deconstruct in a way all those negative things that we latched onto so that you really can sing with the freedom that you want and show up with the confidence that you want. And so for me, part of I really can't remember a time. I don't know if you both relate to this, but when people say, when did you start singing? And I'm like, I mean, earliest memory is so fuzzy because there was always music in the house. And I grew up with two parents who also grew up in singing families. Maybe they were
Mm.
lay musicians, to use a church term, but they were music lovers or actually trained musicians. And they too grew up singing in church. And so I don't remember. I mean, I have those like baby memories, maybe like, of being sung to, but I always was singing in church. And I thought I was going to be the next Natalie Grant, next CCM recording artist, you know what
Natalie
I'm
Grant.
saying? Oh, I mean, listen, still mad props. What a voice.
Mm.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, so I grew up, doing school choirs and singing in church and all that. So funny because I thought for school I was going to be a physical therapist. And my family was like, not that you couldn't be a good one, but you are always singing. You're always like, we just see this spark in you, when it comes to music. So then I did decide to become a vocal pedagogy and music ministry major because I went to a small private Christian college. And my professors became my in-laws. That's where I met my hubby. We'll be celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary here
Oh,
in 2 weeks.
congrats.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so, right, it seemed as though I was always destined for music, right, in some form or fashion. And so, although my degree wasn't necessarily music business, I got the internships and I started working with a Christian radio station. And then after that, moved on to a Christian television station, right? So I was in this insulated world of Christian art, Christian media.
Ooh.
Let's slap a label on anything we love and make our own Christian form of it, right? And
Yep.
I kind of say that. I know it comes out kind of tongue in cheek, and I feel like I can because through therapy, I've worked through a lot of my own deconstruction journey with that. But I think it's more so just like a more neutral position of looking on the outside and being like, wow, look at the machine
Mm,
that being in the middle of it and consumed by it and thinking that that was the dream.
mhm.
I didn't, there was a lot of things obviously I didn't see or didn't know of until I could take this bird's eye view now, just being on that. So my husband was employed by the church as a worship minister, for 15, 16 years before he decided that he was going to invest in his own dream. And now he's an entrepreneur, has his own woodworking business, and we always saw ourselves still, of course, being part of the church in some form or fashion. And he was like ready to be the best volunteer ever, like, and still,
Uh-huh.
because he's a musician himself, he's a drummer, and like he was so excited about really still being involved in that way. I, on the other hand, kind of started my deconstruction journey, as most of us did, in 2016. I wonder why. But and then it kind of took, evolved in different forms or fashion over the pandemic, in 2020. I call 2022 the hard launch, just because us as a family, we were really starting to grapple with some things we were seeing, hearing, things happening in our own family, specifically like the mistreatment of our queer friends and family that we love so much, and
Mhm.
being attached to a faith community where, of course, that was not being upheld, and really longing to still be in community with these people that took such great care of us. I failed to mention, I'm originally from San Juan, Puerto Rico, but I grew up in Atlanta. And then my husband and I moved for a worship leader position to Newport News, Virginia. And here we stayed. We've been here for
Mm.
almost 15 years. And so here's this community that really did become a second family. And the moment we expressed our concerns, like you do in family, and
Mhm.
hoping to have a really thoughtful conversation, we were not met with such openness, or there was just a lot of hardship there.
Mm.
And when you have kids, I have two daughters. I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they too are saying, we don't know if we can bring our friends here. We don't know if we know our Aunt M, my husband's sister, who is gay and just married a lovely woman just last year. Like, we wouldn't have been able to go to their wedding and
Well,
celebrate, and all these things, and we were just trying to put two and two together, and how to really make a hard decision, right, about what community looked like for our family. And so then, as a musician, when I started going through therapy and my own deconstruction, I stopped leading worship, because I was a worship leading rock star, just like so many of us were, right?
well,
It's lucrative. Everybody sees you up there. Everybody wants to be you. And I will be honest, I'm still working through this piece of making sure that the gray Eeyore cloud isn't over the entire span of my life when I
yeah.
sing that music.
Well,
Because I am just now, when I say just now, maybe, ladies, like within the span of the last 9 months, I've been able to be, we're part of a new church now, and sit in a worship service as we know it, and be able to actually sing the songs, even though I may or may not, believe the theology behind all of it, and not be in tears, right? Like, I
uh-huh.
can now, I
Oh,
do it as a, maybe I don't agree with that lyric, but I do it as I do it in a spirit of camaraderie, community, that I'm with a group of people where I see people being cared for, where I
well.
see people not shying away from
Mhm.
hard conversations and being able to figure it out together without fearing one another. And I was telling Emily, you know, in the span of my life, when I was in that tender spot where I couldn't even sing a lyric, I couldn't like sing this music at all. And I'm working with beautiful clients, worship leading clients, who are coming into my studio saying, I want to sing through Everlasting God. And I'm like, okay. And
Yeah.
really just having to do my job, but then finding that, wow, in those 45 minutes that we spent together, they'll never know, unless they listen to this episode now, that they were providing an outlet for me to do that
Well, uh-huh.
when I couldn't actually do it in the only way I knew how to do it all my life. Right. And so, I've worship, performance, performance was a no word. It still is in a lot of these things, right? Because you're supposed
Mhm.
to be doing that as a service unto the Lord. It is
Mhm.
not a performance. Performance has gotten such a bad rap. And I'm really grateful to be in the spot where I am, for me personally, for the singers I get to work with, and even in conversations with my friends who still go to this church, there are people there we still love and adore, who are still finding so much fulfillment, right, in participating in that manner, that perform for me is just another form. It's communication. It
Yeah.
is
Mm-hmm.
simply communication.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just communication in front of a group of people, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
if we just over spiritualize every single thing we do, especially as artists,
Uh-huh.
right? Especially as artists. And then artists in a faith context, whether you consider yourself a person of faith or not, or have deconstructed, again, everything takes on this eternal weight
Yes.
of what
Literally.
you
Yes.
are doing.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm like, take a breath, take a breath. Like, right. So, I mean, it's been a journey. It still is. Being part of the new faith community, I'm getting they find out what we do, what our background is. And my husband actually has started playing drums again, and he's so happy doing it. My kids are helping to lead worship with the students, they're finding such fulfillment. And I'm like, no, no. And that's okay. I'm at peace with it,
Yes. Yeah.
like that's just no, and people will be like, "Well, never say never." And I'm like, "I know." But what happened was I lived in that limbo of never say never because I was giving myself a guilt trip for having finality to that answer. I felt bad about that. And I was like, "No, I need to just shut the door without entertaining the thought. I very well know I can have a change of heart, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling that in any way, shape, or form right now. And that doesn't make me a terrible person. It does
100%.
not, right? I'm not going to let anyone make me feel bad for not, quote unquote, serving in that
Well,
capacity.
yeah.
I'm using purposeful language
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we are very familiar with
Oh
of
my
what
gosh.
said,
The
right?
language.
Yes,
Yes.
Yep.
the semantics, right? And people, still cock their head like, really? But I'm just like,
Yeah.
no, and so, but man, has it been a ride to get to that point, right? And it's still an everyday decision to be at peace with that
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
and to still, not let the guilt, the self-imposed guilt, that comes from this, it's kind of still there. I'm just not
Mhm.
paying much attention to her because I'm like, I don't need you to protect me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like yeah. So
Yeah. Well, good on you, because what I'm thinking, what Carrie and I have talked about so much in, just personally and on the
Mhm.
podcast also, is our tendency toward black and white. It's either
Oh yeah.
I'm doing this 100% or I will never do this. So for you to just be like allowing yourself to say no, like, and that could change, but it doesn't have to. Like, that is a big deal. I also 150% get the like, I can't even sing these songs without crying. I
Yep.
mean, I would like get angry. Like I try to go to churches when I would, like, before I stopped going to church. Um I was like leading worship sometimes and being like, this is hard, just once in a while at a church. And then I stopped going, but I still would like start to think of these songs or whatever. And it's like, I would just start crying. I would either
Mhm.
get like angry,
Yes.
uh, or I would just start crying. And I mean, with just like side note, with my dad passing,
Mhm.
so much of his voice, because he led the worship at our church and then I led the worship at our church. His voice is like playing in my head, and all the songs are those old Christian songs, and I'm just like, I was hearing I Surrender All, the like just yesterday I started singing it and just started crying. Like
Mm.
I understand that spot that's just like, okay, this could be this forever, or it could just be this
Mhm.
temporarily. And I don't have to hate God
Yep.
uh to not buy into the bullshit. Like,
Yes.
uh
Exactly.
and finding that balance is so difficult. And honestly, like, another thing that I really identify with is like, when I do shows now, I kind of feel the worship leader in me, which I don't think I've ever said this out loud, wanting to engage and have the people react to the spirit of what is happening.
Yep.
And when people don't react, I get upset. And it's not even that I'm upset that they're not fully paying attention. It's that we are here to have a fucking community experience. Like,
right.
get in it with me. And I used to feel like that during worship sometimes when the congregation was just like, you know, like, I'd be like, come on.
It's your bid for connection, which
Yes.
really is what, I mean, you said, Melissa, that it's about worship is about communication. I would say absolutely. And that communication is I connection. Let's connect. Let's connect. Let's connect. Let's connect. Let's connect. You know, I'm pointing to the sky as in like God, and pointing out as in like to other people. Those are fundamental things that like we are wired for connection. So it makes total sense that you would be like, why aren't people connecting?
Oh my gosh. I am like, so typically I'm like a kind of laugher. So I'm like trying to hold it in for the sake of the audio. But that is the intensity of my giggles right now, my silent giggles as you're saying that out loud. Because when I started gigging regularly, so like I've kind of in my gigging journey, like I'm a musical theater nerd as well. Plus I love Latin and pop and jazz and all the things. And I've had that blessing, right, of like being able to perform in those avenues. But here, living here in Virginia in the last 4 years, it's really taken off with like what you would consider like gigging, like restaurants, little venues and stuff like that. When I did my first one, kind of like my, coming out of retirement, really, it was during this break where everyone in my church community that we were a part of knew I wasn't actively singing, and they were constantly asking me when when was going to be the next time. And then they see this ad, right, of like this restaurant in their hometown, like, I'm going to sing. And I'm like, Emily, I remember like having a quiet time, which really, it was just journaling. It's just morning pages, Julia Cameron, Artist Way. That's all it was. And that's all it was. Okay. And that was me. I'm kind of smiling, having some compassion on myself, because again, those are the tremors of the upbringing and of the programming coming through. And I was just like, I just want people to just see that, this can be ministry too, listen, it can, but looking back, it doesn't have to be that deep. I think I do believe with all my heart that there is still something powerful that happens, obviously, with expressing music and art. If we didn't believe that, we would not be on these mics today. You wouldn't be doing what each of you do, right? But I think, again, it is this whole, just over spiritualizing every single component of it, because this is what I've told, especially my worship leaders I work with, but this is in this space. When we over spiritualize every single component of our art, if we screw up a line or a note at praise band rehearsal, we're going home in tears. We think we have not only failed ourselves, we have failed the group, and we have failed God. And you can listen to that and be like, well, Melissa, I don't say that, but let's pay attention to your body language and then the way you interact with your people when you get home. It's like it is that deep, and the sadness is that heavy, because if every single thing we do, we believe that it's this worship unto, right? Like it's like you said, divine connection, then
the stakes are so high.
The stakes are so high, and I believe that it's perfectionism masked in good, faithful servanthood.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
As a singer. Yeah. That's all it is. Yeah. And if we can just peel back those layers and, like you said, lower the stakes a little bit. And I think it goes back to, like, personally, like, if you had to like slap a label on my spirituality, I guess these days, I mean, it's anywhere from like post-evangelical to sometimes a Christian agnostic. I told Emily, if there is such a thing, I am finding more peace just in the questioning. That is where I find new certainty. And so therefore, I feel like there is more divine happening in my humanity than in than in this, because everything is a service unto the Lord. It must be done with excellence, aka perfect.
Yep. Yep. Oh my God.
That's all it is.
There's more divine happening in my humanity. I think that is so, I mean, that is so elegantly distilled down into like a little beautiful
I got
nugget.
goosebumps.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes. That
yeah.
is.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I have a question about, because it's almost an oxymoron almost to be like, I am performing in a Christian capacity, helping usher in the spirit of the Lord,
Oh my
right?
gosh, yeah.
Like, that is so complicated, and I've been told, because I was raised performing, Emily was raised performing, you were raised
Mhm.
performing. I mean, I'm sure we've
Mhm.
all heard this, where it's such a mind F to be like, you enjoy performing. You enjoy the experience of being on stage. You enjoy connecting with the audience,
Mhm.
but that starts to feel like, well, am I bringing glory to myself? Am I bringing it is because I enjoy it, because I like being on stage. I like, and this, it took me years to even say this and
Right.
not be like, ew, this feels gross. I like being seen. I
Yeah.
do. I love being on a stage. I love being the only person on a stage and having the audience in the palm of my hand. And I don't feel like it's a matter of everyone look at me and how wonderful I am. It's about the connection
Yeah.
that you
Mm.
have with the audience, that contract where you've entered into it together
Mhm.
and we're both so in it
Right.
for this experience. To me, I'm like, that's it. For
Mm.
me, that's a precious and holy thing.
Mm.
Mm.
And so to grow up feeling so conflicted about performance and constantly, I mean, instead of so much of the time being able to enjoy it,
Mm.
thinking constantly like self searching, looking at myself,
Mm.
self picking around and saying, what about this? What am I enjoying too much? What am I doing in my own
Mhm.
strength? What am I
Mhm.
doing to bring glory to myself? Because I want all those parts of me to die. I want to become invisible so that he is visible. And
Right.
so much of that now coming into and kind of continuing in my deconstruction, I look around and I see all that fear hangs out inside of my body, all of those feelings of self picking and every little thing, self examination
Mhm.
shows up in my art process
Mm. Oh my
because
God.
I was never really allowed to just enjoy the connection, whatever that is. And I think it's everywhere. It's connection to God, connection to self, connection to people, connection to the art, connection to
Yeah.
the feelings, like all of it, right? And
So
so
right.
I'm coming out of that going, what the fuck was all
Yes.
of that? I mean,
Yes.
where did those things land in your body? And tell me about those experiences.
I think the most powerful aha word you said was fear,
Mhm.
rooted in fear. When we help our artists through performance anxiety management, okay? Right? It is letting go of the perfectionism.
Yes.
It is the fear of the what ifs. Fear
Mhm.
if my voice cracks, fear if my audience doesn't get it, fear if like all fear for fear. And what set me free, Carrie, because I so I mean, my body like was electric just hearing you talk about that, because I still feel that too
Mhm.
in performance. And I think that electricity is the freedom I now feel, because I no longer believe I am wretched. All right. I feel like
Uh,
this goes back in our upbringing. A big part of what I've deconstructed is really believing in original goodness. And
Yeah.
I grew up in a very
mm.
charismatic setting. Everything is holiness unto the Lord. You are awful.
Uh-huh.
And I was talking about this with Emily. You know, there's the Netflix documentary, Shiny Happy People, although there's no time to really dive down. We could do a part 2 later, maybe. But
Yeah.
that was
I gotta
that.
finish watching it.
I know.
So triggered by it. I was like, I can't
Exactly.
handle this right now.
I told Emily there were some embedded memories that kind of bubbled to the surface that were rooted in fear. Everything was fear of being martyred, fear of spiritual warfare. And as a singer, let me tell you, in my upbringing, that was one of the biggest parts. I think that is what made everything so high stakes.
Yep. You're on the front line.
Everybody wanted to tell me the story of Jehoshaphat and the singers in the front and spiritual warfare. Listen, I guess I still kind of sort of am a Christian mystic. I get that. All right. I get it. But I think that also contributed to the fear factor.
Yes.
And so letting go of what I have to, I belong.
Mm.
I still believe in God. I still believe in a divine presence. I've evolved in, like, I think God is a they. So let's just say
Yes.
they do truly take delight in me. Therefore, going back to what you were talking about, Carrie, about like, I enjoy being on stage. I can take delight in myself. I can take delight in these nuances of my voice. I can sit here at the piano and I can sing Natural Woman and like just have a moment of, oh my God, that was so good. You know, like, you know what I'm saying? And then at its most, I don't want to say simplistic because it's not trite. It's just easy to digest when you really are enjoying what you do.
Yes.
The audience enjoys it with you.
Right.
You know, and so I think just removing the fear factor for me and really taking note of how those things kind of creep up in my body. I will feel it first in my stomach and then rise up to my chest, right? And I call it the knot. And there she is. There she is. Why am I feeling this in my body in this way? But yeah, just really believing in my core that I'm good, that I am not wretched.
Yeah.
And even from even going back to some of this fundamentalist teaching, if you are listening to this and this is still a core thing of what you believe, I want to say, you know, if you're quoting scriptures like, the power of the resurrection is within me, right? Like the same spirit that raised Christ from the dead is in me. Why do I constantly need the saving over and over and over and over again? So that's like a little sidebar. And I've had to have that conversation a lot with people I love in my life who, you know, want to are still, I would say, still wrestling with the fear factor. And oh my gosh, everything is, you know, so yeah, I have found liberation in remembering that.
Yep. Absolutely.
I'm just over here like having my mind blown because I feel like I've had little pieces of all of these things floating around. And recently and I shared on the last episode, I don't even know if I like singing anymore, you know? And if, you know, how much of performance was required of me because, and it's not just my dad per se, but the religion making you be, if you are called, this is what God has called you to do. I've had very abusive prophecies spoken over me about what I'm required to be, right? And it's like, and so if there's no connection to that requirement anymore, in fact, it's painful. And I'm experiencing anxiety lately that I've never had in my life because it's like, where do I put this? So listening to this, I mean, and I'm on this podcast, but I'm like listening to this podcast right now. It's like, oh, duh. No wonder you're like, why am I doing this? You know, like, this doesn't feel good. This feels scary. It feels like I have to do it or somehow I'm letting someone down. I was just telling Carrie before you hopped on, like, why do I feel like I'm always not prepared? Why do I always feel like even though I know all my songs, they're never right?
Sure.
You know, all this. And I help performers through these things, but I still struggle with all this.
Of course.
And listening to the attachment of all of this and how you guys are saying it is like, fucking duh. That's why you feel like this.
Yep.
Like, this is why it has so much weight.
Right.
A bar show has so much weight. Like,
Yes.
Yes.
a bunch of people who won't even remember they were there.
No.
Yes. Yes.
Have the power to not connect with me and this makes me feel worthless. You know, like, it's because I ultimately feel worthless, and that's why I sing. Like, oh my God.
Right.
Okay, great. Like, I sing because I'm happy.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Anyway,
We've talked about this before, though, that what we did, our imperative as Christians when we were still living in that old way of thinking was very heavy. Like you said, Melissa, and like you said, Emily, it was so heavy. What you're doing, singing, ushering people into the presence of God,
the throne
room, hopefully so that they could get saved and their souls will be saved from eternal damnation. Okay, so when you talk about heavy in your nervous system, that is internalized into your framework of what you're thinking, right?
Correct.
How you, not just what you think, but how you think. And then you deconstruct from that. That framework doesn't go away. You go, so essentially what you're saying, when you deconstruct from these beliefs, art goes from essential, heavy, massive, eternity determining work to just play. Yeah. It's literally engage in play, engage in delight and joy. Just do it. And we're going, what?
I've never played ever. I'm serious. When I said this to my therapist, I'm sorry, I'm like yelling, but I'm like, when I was a kid, I was at recess organizing Bible studies. And I was teaching dances to Christian music to witness.
Weren't we all?
Yeah, to witness to my friends in elementary school. I didn't fucking play. What is play? I don't know what I do for fun. I'm saving lives.
Yep.
Like, souls.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'll tell you, one of the first things I did for play was I was like, I've written love songs, of course, for my husband who I prayed for, right? You know, all the things. But I wrote my first Sussy song.
Nice.
And I was like, excuse me, I can totally write this. We all have kids. So, I mean, it's not like explicit, like the thong song or anything like that. But, you know, my daughters heard me rehearsing because most of my set, like when I do gig, I'm like Latin pop jazz fusion. So like, and so yeah, it is romantic. I celebrate love. I celebrate joy and all those things. And, it's so funny because they were just like, ew, you know, huge cringe factor. And I was like, well, this ain't for you. This is not for you. This is for your daddy, you know? So, that is a part of my, again, goodness, not fleshly like behavior that I am enjoying and celebrating. And that's just part of life. You know what I'm saying? So that's like just a little sliver of how the play and has shown up in deconstruction for me as an artist, right? To like freely celebrate those things again about my humanity that I really like and that are good.
Yeah.
It's good, right?
Yeah.
It is not whatever insert whatever Christianese, you know, word you want to put in there. The fleshly, it's carnal.
It is of the flesh, and that's part of you, and that is good. Yeah,
exactly, girl.
Good for you, man. Yeah. Good for you. Okay, well, I feel like 150%. I think I said that twice, so this time it has to be 175%. We could talk about this for the next 2 hours
so much
and not run out of things, but I want to honor your time with us because I know that you have a student to go teach here in a couple of minutes, but oh my God, in the truest sense.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here with us and sharing. I feel like we scratched the surface. I'm just over here like, okay, well, I haven't written my morning pages yet. I know what I'm writing about.
Yep.
today.
Awesome. No, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Again, it's
Thanks,
just
Melissa.
it's easy. It's easy to spill and share and because it is honest.
Yeah.
And I think if anyone can just in our capacities as singers, as coaches, or even on this podcast, if someone can just feel like they can actually exhale fully, I
Yeah.
think that's the gig.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Melissa.
you.
Thank you.
Honestly, dear listener.